Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm Maddie from Zero Waste, California, and today I'm going to show you one of my all-time favorite kitchen staples that produces absolutely no waste to go to landfill. So that means all the ingredients I used were either found in bulk, meaning I could use my own containers instead of having to use their packaging, or I was able to find them in sustainable packaging like glass. So I try to avoid plastic whenever possible, but if that's the only option, I will at least try to find post-consumer recycled plastic. So hummus is a staple in my house for many reasons. It's healthy, it's tasty, and it goes with a lot of food, so it gives me a lot of variety to work with. But buying pre-made hummus isn't exactly cheap, and worse, it almost always comes packaged in plastic. So let's be real. Hummus is really easy to make, but it is really time consuming, especially if you want to do all the steps at once. I'm a pretty busy person, so if it's going to be a time consumer, I need to be able to break apart the steps as needed. And this is a really good recipe for that. Of course, you can always save yourself a little bit of time and get canned chickpeas, but they're much more expensive compared to the bulk variety, and in my opinion, it creates unnecessary waste. Even if the can is recyclable, why bother? You can just pop some dry chickpeas in water overnight and then simmer them the next day. Or if I don't have time the next day, I'll just change out the water, put the chickpeas in the fridge, and then I can simmer them the next day. It's a really forgiving recipe. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so the first thing you're obviously going to need are chickpeas, and for this recipe I use dry chickpeas. I found them in bulk for $2.29 per pound, and these are the ingredients you're going to need tomorrow, but let's just go over them now anyway. So the first thing that you are going to need is a clove of garlic. On top of that, you'll need some tahini, which we will go over in just a second, a lemon, a little olive oil, and I'm using extra virgin olive oil here, and just a little bit of salt. I have about a teaspoon, but it's really your preference. And again, I'm using dried chickpeas, and I'll show you what they look like in a second once my camera focuses. Oh, there they are. So I prefer the dry because I can easily find them in bulk, which means no packaging or plastic if I use my own containers, and they're a lot less expensive that way. So just $2.29 a pound compared to the Arrowhead Mills brand, which was $4.79 a pound, meaning you are paying $2.30 just for non-recyclable plastic packaging. Alright, the next thing you're going to want to do is sort your beans, and by that I mean pick through them, make sure there are no discolored beans or little shrunken guys. Looks like I found 2 bad beans in the batch, but that's not too many. Now you're going to want to rinse those beans very well and then pour them back into whatever container you're going to use. I like to use a quart-sized mason jar, but it doesn't really matter. Oops, gotta pick up those little guys. And then you're going to fill, oh, I'm going to clean up my surfaces first also. And then you're going to fill it with water. So make sure that your chickpeas are covered with a few inches of water because they are going to expand overnight. Guys, sorry that's not really in focus. So now I've drained the chickpeas, I rinsed them off in the sink, and I put them in a cooking pot, covering them with about 2 inches of water. Now you're going to want to cook them for about 1 to 2 hours, so bring it to a boil, cover them, and then reduce it to a simmer until they are nice and squishy, just like this little guy is right here. Well, now we need to talk about the next ingredient, which is tahini. Remember how I said we would go over that in a little bit?
You'll need some tahini.
So for this, you are going to want to use a cup of toasted sesame seeds, a little bit of salt, I'd say about a half teaspoon or so, and then you're going to want to use some cooking oil. Generally, you're going to want to use a light oil for this. Avocado oil is fine, canola oil. If all you have is olive oil, just use it. It's not going to make a big difference. So add all the ingredients into your blender or food processor or whatever sort of blending mechanism you might have, pestle and mortar, and then you're going to blend the dickens out of it. your tahini is nice and creamy, we can proceed with the hummus recipe. So you're going to want to take about a half cup of that tahini and dump it right into those chickpeas. I'm using the same pot that I cooked in because it's going to save me from having to wash another dish, which wastes more water. So dump that right in there. Now you're going to add the olive oil. Bloop, 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 bloop. Now I'm using that same metal strainer that I drained the chickpeas in to juice my lemon. And I'm going to juice the whole lemon here. And that strainer is going to catch any pulp or seeds from getting into the hummus, which would make it not very creamy. Now, don't toss those lemon peels just yet. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to make a really easy 3-ingredient all-purpose cleaner that will have a wonderful lemony scent. But until then, I am now chopping up a clove of garlic. I just removed the skin and gave it a quick smash with my knife there. Now I'm just chopping off some little nibbly bits that were not good, tossing that in my compost. And I don't have the best knife skills in the world, so let's just fast forward on through that. After you've blended it for about 60 seconds, you are ready to go. If you want it creamier, you can add a little bit of water, like about a tablespoon. If you want it smoother, you can just blend it for a bit longer. But this is the consistency that I like it at, so I'm gonna eat it as is. Except I just realized I forgot to add the salt. So definitely add that. Better late than never. It's gonna bring out the flavors of the chickpeas and the tahini. But it's kind of a blank canvas. You can really add whatever you want to it. I'm gonna add some chili flakes right here. You could add a roasted red bell pepper that you blend into it, some fresh herbs or whatever other spices that you like. I also like to give it just a little drizzle of olive oil on top. And there you go. You have a delicious, healthy, really inexpensive snack. Cost about $1.70 to make this with all the bulk ingredients, so really not that expensive considering that you get a little tiny tub of hummus for like $3 or $4. You can use it on top of these toasted little pita points, on crudité, as a spread for bagels or sandwiches. It's pretty versatile, and this will last me and my boyfriend about a week or so. And it takes a little bit of time to make this, but none of the steps are very difficult, and you can always break them up over a few days. Just pop whatever you have done in the fridge and get back to it tomorrow. So as you can see, there was no waste from this recipe that had to go to landfill. I didn't have to recycle anything because the jars and containers can either be reused or refilled, and everything else I was able to compost. But let's not forget those lemon peels. So what I always do before tossing any lemon peels into the compost is try to get a second use out of them by using them to scent my all-purpose cleaner, which is extremely easy to make. It only takes 2 other ingredients, and that is regular household vinegar, which I can usually find packaged in glass, and tap water. You usually do a ratio of about 50-50 vinegar to water, and then I just top that off with the chopped up lemon peels. And as they soak up the vinegar, the citrus scent releases into the vinegar, which kind of cuts that vinegar scent when you're cleaning with it, which is very nice. And you can get a couple uses out of that. You can just kind of refill it a couple times until the lemon has lost its efficiency, and then you can toss that into the compost at that point. But look how nicely it cleans this really disgusting stuck-on coffee stain. Oh my god, I sound like an infomercial.